From speaking from personal experience, the mentally ill are some of the most discriminated against people in society, and we have to go through our daily lives like either just frankly pretending to be normal, if you know what I mean, or like not or masking the symptoms of our mental illness. Very often, we put a lot of effort into masking those symptoms, or to masking evidence of things like Asperger's syndrome, which is commonly mistaken for mental illness, or madness, or lunacy, or whatever. In these old-fashioned terms that the parlance of the 19th century, the 18th century, of maniacs and lunatics and imbeciles still sort of exists within the zeitgeist to some extent. However, the treatment of the mentally ill, for one thing, over the course of the many centuries with which we've had entities such as lunatic asylums, for example, has been unbelievably brutal. Like in the 18th and early 19th centuries, for example, you have patients chained to walls, subjected to having hot irons searing their skin, put in straight jackets, beaten, and so on, or subjected to various forms of shock therapy. And on a level that the shock therapy has never really stopped. Unfortunately, we still subject people to things like ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, which I think is a crude and frankly maniacal form of treatment for disorders of the brain, if indeed a mental disorder, a mental health problem can be distilled down to some sort of disorder of the brain. We have frankly a long and shoddy history in the treatment of mental health patients, and it's something that hardly anyone ever talks about. Like, you've got big charities like Mind, for example, trying to end the stigma against mental illness and these sorts of things, and there's lots of advocacy work that people do. There's lots of charities doing great things to try and assist psychiatric patients in reintegrating into the community and so on. And the way that it works now in the 21st century, as opposed to the largest part of the 20th century, since Enoch Powell declared that he would end the old system of Victorian asylums in 1961. However, the first asylums weren't actually closed until 1986. So this sort of history of psychiatric treatment is really it's been going on up until really quite recently as well. That's the other thing about it. The old-fashioned methods of treatment, these more brutal forms of treatment, and this new ideology of care in the community. Yes, it is a big improvement on what came before. I do grant you that. However, it still is nearly not good enough. I'm sorry to say, it's still the wrong sort of approach to mental illness. And we got things coming online now like psychedelic assisted therapy, which I think could be a huge revolution in the treatment of mental disorders. And I think it could, open up new vistas of possibility for everyone suffering from a mental health condition, and it could hopefully repair even things like dementia. There's some tentative anecdotal evidence coming to the fore now that magic mushrooms, for example, could help to fix dementia, or at least improve the quality of people's lives with dementia and make the disease less aggressive, and to some extent improve connections between neurons, improve neuroplasticity, and regain a degree of cognitive function as a result of using psilocybin. A lot of good people are working very, very hard to bring that sort of thing about, to change the culture of mental health treatment from something which is punitive, more like coercive, discriminatory, these facets of behaviour that we associate with torturers and so on. And it really wasn't all that long ago either when Bethlehem Hospital existed. Bethlehem Hospital, I think it's Bethlehem Hospital, aka Bedlam, in London, where the staff of the hospital charged admissions fees to gawkers who wanted to come in and look at the mad inmates of the hospital, and see like them going obviously crazy because of the horrendous treatment they were subjected to. This utter brutality, this degraded, pitiful mode of treating human beings. Like in terms of human rights, also these places today, like they're better, yes. They're still making mistakes routinely, however. Still, people are being locked up when they're not a danger to themselves or other people, but they're saying things that the state doesn't like or agree with, as in my case. And it's not a good place to be. It's a place that will seek to stamp out opposing opinions and silence dissent against the state. It can be used for that reason. And it will deny you your civil liberties still, and it will treat you forcibly still as well, which I cannot agree with, not in good conscience. I think even for the most criminally insane people, we should give them the dignity of not being forcibly treated with any medication, and that the treatment should be done by volition and not coercion. I think that's very important. That's something I would like to campaign for, actually, the end to the forced treatment of the mentally ill. And if they can be convinced to take something like psilocybin to aid them in their recovery, then that should be the best option. And cannabis as well, but not synthetic cannabinoids, not like skunk or anything like this, or spice, but like good quality organic cannabis that will just help alleviate some of the neurosis and anxiety that they're suffering from, which it indeed will. And if someone's violent, for example, you want to make them non-violent, you could do a lot worse than giving them a spliff, frankly. That's the other thing. They will certainly relax then if you give them a few tokes on a joint. They'll be in a great state, a great mood. Part of the problem with the ways in which we treat madness, mental illness, is we neglect the natural compounds and substances that, first of all, our brains are wired to process. We have an endocannabinoid system for a reason, because we've evolved using the cannabis plant. And because cannabinoids assist various aspects of brain function. They relieve stress by activating certain neurotransmitters within the brain, and you have this, I think, GABA-aminergic response or something, to cannabis use, and that causes the relaxation. Maybe I'm butchering that, probably am, but in any case, it should just be common sense. And the same would say, no drugs, no anything that helps with your mental health. No good times, no fun, no fucking flowers, for goodness sake. I can't have some flowers on my desk drying beautifully, just to improve the quality of my life. What they would take, they allow me to paint and things, they do. I've got paintings in here, I've got my tarot cards, I've got my books, just all my books from home. It's not hell on earth. I'm not in a terrible place, but it's still very hard to get out of here when I want to, on leave and things. It's still hard, and it's still a harsh, sterile, rule-filled, authoritarian environment, and that. It's still an environment of punishment, basically, for so-called bad behaviour, so-called motivated by madness, rather than like factors in my environment, let's face it, that are forcing me into a corner, and people causing me to react to certain situations, being abused by the people around me, more or less. And then I act out in someone and they say, oh, then you're mental, you need to be sectioned for that. That's all, and round and round it goes. And it's the same cycle of behaviour, like repeating itself again and again and again. And yeah, this is what people have done like for generations to annoying family members who, for instance, accuse their families of abusing them. Very often the people making the accusations are in the right. And yeah, it's not the victim who should be locked up. It is the perpetrators. But no one sees it that way, and it's easier to craft a scapegoat, and it's easier to suggest that someone's an evil, mad person than merely someone who's endured a huge amount of suffering at other people's hands, who has finally snapped and has gone round the twist a bit on occasion, which just happens to people. So we have to adopt that level of understanding when dealing with the mentally ill, if you see what I mean.